Chapter 2243. By Ryue naturally heard Enchanting's words. So he didn't like children? That was good. Then no one would snatch the children from her. Enchanting didn't recognize her. Although it made her feel sad, she was also glad. Moreover, he seemed to be getting married to a beautiful woman in a wheelchair. Actually, she knew about this. Who didn't know about Miss Tang from the family? Miss Tang's infatuation with Enchanting was also known by the public. It was also said that the reason why they delayed their marriage until now was because Master Huiguang said that Enchanting shouldn't get married before 30 years old. Otherwise, it would bring misfortune to Miss Tang. It was imaginable how much Enchanting liked Miss Tang. He was afraid that she would be hurt and would rather suffer. If it wasn't for the accident last time, they probably wouldn't have any interaction. Bai Ryue held Bai Yanji's hand and walked into the school with a heavy heart. However, she didn't notice that Bai Yanji's small head was looking at Enchanting. He saw Enchanting pushing Tangwa into the school for the disabled. He looked especially gentle. If he didn't see wrongly, his mother was frightened when she saw this man. So, did this man know his mother? Why didn't he recognize his mother? Why did she look so scared? Would he have anything to do with his father? The seed of doubt had been planted. Now, it was just waiting for the veil to be lifted. Bai Yanji's IQ and talent moved this genius school to accept him. Bai Ryue was very happy about this. She didn't know that Bai Yanji had returned home and was sitting in front of the computer, looking up Enchanting's information. He even carefully looked at his and Enchanting's photos. He felt that there were similarities between them. Bai Yanji was sure that Enchanting was most likely his father. However, he didn't like the news on the internet. Finding his father was a happy thing. However, his father was going to marry another woman. This was bad news for him and his mother. That woman's family background seemed to be very good. His father was able to get to where he was today because of that woman. This made Bai Yanji feel very ashamed. However, his mother seemed to care a little about that man. He even secretly looked at his mother's phone. There were many photos of that man and records of her searching for his information. Mom, Enchanting is my father, right? Bai Ryue was shocked by Bai Yanji's sudden words. She was furious. Who told you that? Yanji, he isn't your father. Believe me, he isn't. Bai Yanji didn't argue with Bai Ryue, and he didn't say anything to Bai Ryue because he had decided to find out the truth himself. In order to take care of her son, Bai Ryue also moved to this city and found a job. Although he was busy, his salary was not bad. She didn't know that Bai Yanji had used half a day to complete the course assigned by the teacher. He lied and said that he had something to do, but he secretly took a taxi to Enchanting's company. The two cities were very close. He calculated that a round trip would only take more than an hour. There was enough time to do something. Bai Yanji did not go to Enchanting directly. He was smarter than many people and knew that he might not be able to enter if he went to look for him. Therefore, he chose to wait outside the company. Enchanting usually drove back to the manor by himself. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talking about life, looking for a confidant, vertex. Chapter 2244. When Enchanting came down, he followed Enchanting into the parking lot. Finally, when Enchanting opened the car door, he got in directly. Enchanting looked at the child who suddenly got into his car and felt a little strange. This child looked a little familiar. He didn't know why, but perhaps because he looked familiar, he didn't get angry and throw the child out. Child, why did you get into my car? At this moment, Enchanting didn't know that this scene was being transmitted to the system space by the system. Tangwa was watching with her eyes closed. I think we can talk. Tangwa looked at Bai Yanji's tone and laughed. This child was really precocious. If he wasn't Enchanting's son, would he dare to talk to Enchanting like this? Enchanting was indeed a little unhappy and wanted to throw Bai Yanji out. Bai Yanji spoke again. Aren't you curious why I came to find you? Bai Yanji's tone didn't sound like a child at all. That calm look made Enchanting a little curious. Then why did you come to find me? Originally, I didn't want to find you. To me, your existence isn't important. But because of someone, I had no choice but to find you. Enchanting was already a little impatient. He didn't know which family's child didn't discipline him well and came to talk nonsense in front of him. In fact, after knowing that he might not have children in this life, he was a little disgusted with all children. He didn't throw this child out immediately. It was already his excellent self-restraint and another kind of intuition that made him unable to do anything. Bai Yanji took out a photo directly. Do you know her? Seeing Ting's confused look, Bai Yanji frowned and was a little dissatisfied. She's my mother. Why do you say this? Ting still didn't react. He also didn't know who Bai Rue was. It should be said that he had given himself a hint in his heart to deliberately forget something that had happened in the past. Mr. Qin, if I didn't guess wrongly, we should be father and son. But your attitude really made me unhappy. A person like you is not worthy of my mother. Seeing this, Tanghua only shook her head. Who gave this child the confidence to think that the world revolved around him? Even if he was Ting's biological son, it wasn't good to talk so big. Ting felt as if he had been struck by lightning. At the same time, he also thought of something. At this time, Tanghua opened her eyes with a smirk on her face. She called Ting. Brother Ting, what took you so long? Are you back yet? Sorry, something came up at the last minute, so I won't be able to accompany you back for dinner today. As Ting spoke, he looked at Bai Yanji's appearance in the car. The more he looked, the more he felt that this child looked like him. Could this be the miracle that the doctor was talking about? At this moment, Ting was not frightened, but pleasantly surprised. Because he had long accepted the fact that he didn't have children, he didn't expect God to give him a chance to live. Ever since his status became higher and higher, he also wanted an outstanding successor. At this moment, he had forgotten that he was still the fiancé of Miss Tang of the family, and that he was going to get married in a few months. Come back earlier when you're done. Do you want me to leave you some food? Tanghua was lying on the recliner with her eyes closed. Her consciousness was immersed in the screen of the system space. Looking at Ting lying to the phone, the corner of her mouth slightly curved into an extremely sarcastic smile. I want to chat with more like-minded people about crossover, female supporting character, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2245. No need. I don't know when I'll be back. I'll take you out to eat another day. After hanging up the phone, Ting sat in the car and looked at Bai Yanji for a while before saying, You won't object if I take you to do a paternity test, right? No, but after the paternity test, you have to arrange for someone to send me home. Bai Yanji sat quietly in the car, and Ting liked him a little. But Ting's heart was very complicated. He took Bai Yanji to the hospital of a trusted friend of his to do a paternity test. The results could only be obtained a few days later. In the end, he sent someone to send Bai Yanji back, but his heart still hadn't calmed down. Now that he had slowly calmed down, he didn't know how to deal with this matter at all. If the child was his, what would he do? Since it was his child, it was impossible not to acknowledge it. Moreover, this child might be his only bloodline in his life. If he acknowledged this child, what would happen between him and Xiaogua? They were going to get married in a few months. If he broke off the engagement because of this reason, it would be a huge blow to him and Xiaogua. Not only would his reputation be damaged, but his career would also be damaged. If Tang Yunfeng found out, he would definitely not be able to survive. Moreover, he had never thought of being together with that woman. Even if he knew that she had given birth to a child for him, he didn't have such thoughts. It was just a brief relationship. How could he have any love for her? Now, he really loved and hated that night. If it wasn't for that night, he might not have a child in his life. But because of that night, if Xiaogua found out, the consequences would be unimaginable. If only there was a way to satisfy both sides. Ting frowned and thought hard. In the end, he decided to wait for the results to come out. Tanghua saw Ting sitting in the office through the screen in the system space and laughed. How could there be such a good thing in the world? If Ting knew that he had a son, he might as well directly admit that he chose his only bloodline, give up everything now, and leave the family. He must be so conflicted because he couldn't bear to do it. He wanted to have all the good things. Wishful thinking. Don't you think he's wishful thinking? Tangua pinched the white cat's face with both hands and pulled. Although you can't speak, at least meow twice and let me hear your response. Chio. The system was speechless. The great host's temper was getting weirder and weirder. Was it because that fellow had not appeared for a long time that made her unhappy? Was she bullying her most precious cat now? Sigh, he couldn't make a living person appear. He couldn't make a living person appear to help the great host. Meow. From this meow, even the system could feel the helplessness of this white cat. That's right. Next time when I talk to you, remember to reply with a meow. System, oh, how helpless. The host is cruelly bullying the kitten. Should I stop her? Forget it. It's just a verbal attack. Kitty, he's your breadwinner. Just bear with it. It'll be over soon. 3 days later, Enchanting could not wait to go to the hospital to get the results. After seeing the results of the paternity test, his heart sank. At the same time, he felt an inexplicable joy. In short, it was very complicated. He let out a long sigh and finally tore up the paternity test report and threw it into the trash can. He just didn't want to leave any evidence behind. As for Bai Yanji being his biological son, he would definitely acknowledge him. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2246. This matter was very troublesome. Enchanting couldn't think of a good solution. He didn't feel comfortable letting his own son be an illegitimate child. How could his only son bear the reputation of an illegitimate child? It wouldn't be good if word got out in the future. There would be many people attacking him with the identity of an illegitimate child. This was what Enchanting didn't want to see. Even when he was eating with Tangua, Enchanting was absent-minded. Brother Enchanting, is there something bothering you at work? Tangua interrupted Enchanting's thoughts. I see that you're absent-minded and haven't eaten much. Is it very serious? Enchanting denied. Oh. When facing Tangua, he felt a little guilty. He didn't be absent-minded again and ate with Tangua. When it was almost over, Enchanting asked, Xiaogua, do you like children? Brother Enchanting, didn't I tell you last time? I don't know because I don't and can't have children. Enchanting was a little annoyed. Sorry. He suddenly thought of his own situation and hesitated for a moment before saying, Actually, there's something I've been hiding from you. It's a little hard to talk about. I originally thought that hiding it shouldn't be very important between us, so I didn't say it. What is it? Tangua pursed her lips. Was Enchanting testing her now? What a cruel and unscrupulous thing. For the sake of his own son, he would do anything. Do you still remember that a long time ago, you asked me to do a comprehensive physical examination? Enchanting was relieved about this matter. After all, there were no other effects. He had a bloodline, so that matter didn't seem important. Could it be that there's a problem? Seeing Tangua's worried gaze, Enchanting felt even more guilty. He didn't notice that the white cat lying on the sofa gave him a very disdainful and pitiful look. Even if it noticed, it probably wouldn't understand that look. The doctor said that I might not be able to have children in this life. In the end, Enchanting told Tangua about his physical condition. We're about to get married. Even though these things may not be important to Xiaogua, I still have to tell you clearly. Maybe after we get married in the future, if we want to have a child one day, we can adopt one and not think of other ways. Enchanting saw that Tangua kept looking at him, and he didn't dare to show the slightest flaw with his expression. In fact, his hands under the table had already clenched into fists. Amidst the flashing lightning and rolling thunder, he thought of a way to satisfy both sides. He would bring back the child with his bloodline and treat it as an adopted child. Although she was adopted in name, it was enough for him to know that she was his biological child. This way, he would have a legitimate identity. As for whether that woman would agree or not, he would think of a way. His son was very smart and had been selected by a school for geniuses. If this child wanted to have a bright future, he must enjoy the best resources. That woman had taken his money and disappeared without a trace. She must have liked money. His son could have a bright future and could inherit Enchanting's property in the future. She had no reason to disagree. Enchanting's idea was beautiful. He had never considered whether Tanghua, by Yenji, and her son would agree or not. Perhaps he was used to being in control and didn't consider these things at all. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about crossover, female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for a confidant peak. Chapter 2247. Today, Enchanting used a business trip as an excuse to go to a nearby city to look for Bai Yenji. He wanted to tell him about the results of the paternity test. Bai Yenji seemed to have already expected this. He didn't greet Enchanting warmly even though he was looking forward to it. After all, he didn't know what life would be like with a father. However, Enchanting was about to marry another woman. This made him extremely dissatisfied. "I want to talk to your mother." Bai Yenji didn't object. After school, he brought Enchanting home to look for Bai Ruyu. Bai Ruyu didn't expect to see Enchanting sitting in the living room of her small house. She was at a loss. At the same time, she looked worriedly at Bai Yenji. She didn't understand why Enchanting was looking for her. Looking at Enchanting's expression, he probably knew that Bai Yenji was his son. "Bai Yenji is my son," Enchanting said affirmatively. This made Bai Ruyu's heart sink. "So what if he is?" Bai Ruyu relaxed when she saw her son by her side. "Mr. Qin, I gave birth to him and raised him. You were the one who said we were even. What do you mean by looking for me now?" After so many years, Enchanting was still as charming as before. In fact, he was even more attractive. However, when she thought about how he was about to get married, Bai Ruyu immediately dispelled her unrealistic thoughts. "This child took the initiative to look for me," Enchanting said faintly. "If he didn't look for me, I wouldn't have known that I had such a son." He narrowed his eyes as he sized up Bai Ruyu. He was suspecting whether this matter was incited by Bai Ruyu. Bai Yenji understood what he meant. He quickly said, "It was my idea to look for you. It has nothing to do with my mother." Bai Ruyu was stunned. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. "Then why did Mr. Qin come here today?" Bai Ruyu asked nervously. She looked at Bai Yenji worriedly. Could it be that Yenji wanted a father so badly? Enchanting said, "I came to ask you what plans you have. I will definitely acknowledge my son." Yenji is indeed Mr. Qin's blood. Since Yenji already knew and still took the initiative to look for you, I don't have the right to make him not acknowledge you as his father. Bai Ruyu compromised. From a personal point of view, it was good for her son to have such a father as his backing. After being in society for so many years, Bai Ruyu deeply understood the importance of status. People with status could do things that ordinary people would never be able to do in their entire lives. "I want to take Yenji away and let him stay by my side legitimately," Enchanting said directly. "Do you understand what I mean? In addition, I will compensate you, and I won't stop you from seeing each other in private. However, you can't be mother and son on the surface. It's best if you move away." Bai Ruyu's face was as white as a sheet of paper. Bai Yenji suddenly raised his head and looked coldly at Enchanting. He spat out, "It's impossible for me to leave my mother." Didn't he go to look for Enchanting because he found out that something was wrong with his mother and wanted to find his father? Why was the result different from what he had imagined? This man actually wanted to take him away. He even said that it was justified and that he wanted his mother to stay away from him. "I'm getting married. Nominally, I intend to adopt Yenji and give him an honorable identity. As a mother, you should know how important this identity is." Bai Ruyu felt bitter in her heart. She looked at Bai Yenji and didn't know what to say. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant peak. Chapter 2248. Yenji, do you want to follow your father? Of course, Bai Ruyu wasn't willing, but she couldn't help her child choose. Actually, everyone knew that it was best for the child to follow Enchanting. He could receive the best nurturing. If Yenji was willing to leave, she would grit her teeth and swallow him. Even if she died from the pain, she wouldn't stop him. As long as her son was well, everything was fine. Bai Yenji pursed his lips. His small hand clutched the corner of Bai Ryue's clothes. "Yenji won't leave mommy. Yenji will be wherever mommy is. Really? Bai Ryue cried tears of joy. She hugged Bai Yenji's small body tightly. Are you really willing to stay by mommy's side? Then, Mr. Qin, did you hear that? Yenji is willing to stay by my side and not leave with you. Bai Ryue was somewhat pleased. After all, she was the one who gave birth to him. She had raised him. Qin Ting raised his brows slightly. He didn't expect Bai Yenji to be so certain of his decision to follow Bai Ryue. He only said, you have to think carefully. I won't stop you from secretly meeting each other. She is my mother. Why do we have to secretly meet each other? We are mother and son. Why can't we reveal our relationship to others? Bai Yenji didn't understand this, so he said it directly. He seemed to feel that Qin Ting wanted to take him away. He said coldly, you can take me away, but you must accept my mother first. He went to find Qin Ting because of his mother. When Qin Ting heard this, he felt that Bai Ryue must have said something to Bai Yenji behind his back. Otherwise, how could this child know so much at such a young age? He looked down and disliked Bai Ryue even more. He was even more determined to take Bai Yenji away no matter what. It was better for him to raise his son by his side. You still have time to consider. Qin Ting wasn't anxious at all. His son was here. He could bring him back anytime. He couldn't run away. This woman, Bai Ryue, was too greedy. Did she think that by giving birth to a son for him, she could rise to the top? Putting aside the fact that he didn't like her, with her scheming, he couldn't keep this woman by his side no matter what. Bai Ryue felt Qin Ting's gaze. Her face felt a burning pain. But in front of her son, she couldn't argue about this. This child is quite smart. If you raise him well, his future will be limitless. You can consider whether it's better for him to follow you or me. Qin Ting left. Bai Ryue heaved a sigh of relief. After closing the door, she hugged Bai Yenji and asked, why are you looking for him? Isn't he my father? Why can't I find him? You are my mother and he is my father. Why can't you two get married and live together as a family? Bai Ryue didn't know how to answer. She couldn't possibly tell her child what had happened in the past. Not only would that be embarrassing, but it would also be embarrassing. Is it because of that woman? According to the information I found, Dad's achievements today are all because of that woman. Bai Ryue couldn't say anything. She couldn't explain it, but that was the truth. Her silence made Bai Yenji think that all the obstacles were Tanghua. He had already imagined many scenarios in his mind. It was his father who abandoned his mother for glory and wealth. It was that woman named Tanghua who took his father away from him before he was born. But her mother still looked like she couldn't forget her father. So, what could he do to make this man come back and live with them? He wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2249. Madam Host, I don't think there will be any love between the male and female leads. How are we going to continue with the show? Is that still important? The system thought about it carefully. It really didn't seem to be important. A son had already been created. Love wasn't the main point. Qin Ting wanted to bring Bai Yenji back and raise him under his and the host's name. This idea was really beautiful and naive. Bai Ryue and Bai Yenji didn't agree to Qin Ting's conditions, but Qin Ting met with Bai Yenji every week. Bai Yenji didn't pay much attention to him. Because of Bai Ryue, he would bring Bai Yenji home. They were a family of 3, but they got along very awkwardly. Bai Ryue felt Qin Ting's dislike for her. She felt sad and sad. When Bai Yenji saw Qin Ting's attitude, he disliked him even more. The plot between the male and female leads was really strong. Just when Tanghua thought there wouldn't be any progress in their relationship, a turning point came. One day, Bai Yenji brought Qin Ting back. After waiting for a long time, Bai Ryue still didn't return. Because Bai Yenji was worried, Qin Ting had no choice but to bring him to find Bai Ryue. In the end, they found her. If they had been late, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Bai Ryue accompanied a client to drink. In the end, she got drunk and something bad almost happened. Luckily, Qin Ting had the ability to find her. Qin Ting's sudden appearance made Bai Ryue collapse. She lay in his embrace and cried. All these years, she was an unmarried woman who gave birth and raised a child. She had suffered a lot. In the end, the child's father was indifferent to her. He even looked at her with disgust. She felt extremely wronged. For a moment, Enchanting didn't push her away. He even heard her delirious ramblings. Unknowingly, he seemed to understand her a lot more. Love is really a mysterious power. What do you think? Tangwa sat in the drawing room. She was drawing a white cat beside the vase on the windowsill as she spoke. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no one in the room, no one would have thought that she was talking to the white cat. When she didn't get a response, Tangwa glanced at the white cat. You forgot again? You aren't a fish. How can you forget so quickly? System, madam's bullying this cat's. She's so cute. Meow. Be good. Next time when I speak, remember to squeak. Don't make me remind you again. Meow. Good girl, that's right. Love is not wrong, but hurting other people for love is the biggest mistake, right? It's not wrong to want a son, but it's wrong to have an affair. If you have the ability, then give up everything and leave openly, right? Then Enchanting is a scum, right? He's still a greedy fellow, isn't he? He wants status, reputation, wealth, and even a son. I think he's daydreaming. Meow meow meow. That's right, I understand what you're saying. You're saying that he can dream on. System, you can even talk about this? Since when did the host learn the language of cats? The human and cat were communicating with each other without any barriers. They looked very harmonious. Ever since Enchanting saved the damsel in distress, Bai Ryue's attitude towards him became much better. Every time Enchanting went to see Bai Yanji, Bai Ryue would come back and prepare a sumptuous dinner. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant peak. Chapter 2250. Sometimes, she even predicted that he would come over, so she got off work earlier and came back to prepare food. The three of them got along much more warmly than before. As the days went by, there was only 1 month left until Tangwa and Enchanting's wedding date. Enchanting finally remembered this matter, and he felt as if he was in a dream. Back at the manor, he saw Tangwa sitting quietly in the garden drawing. The drawing board was still the same drawing board, and the person drawing was still the same. Although the scenery was different, the main character was always the cat. Enchanting walked over. Before he reached her, Tangwa sensed it. Brother Enchanting, you're back? I'm back. Enchanting had already walked to her side. Looking at the beautiful landscape painting, he suddenly realized that she didn't put much thought into the scenery. Instead, it was the cat that was drawn especially seriously. Almost every strand of hair was drawn so clearly. The small leaf under the cat's paw was also drawn seriously by her thanks to the cat, more carefully than any other place. It was obvious that she liked this cat very much. Our wedding date is next month. Are you ready, Xiaogua? I've been ready for a long time. What about Brother Enchanting? Are you ready? Tangwa turned around and asked with a smile. Are you ready to live with me for the rest of your life? If not, you still have a chance. Of course, I've been ready for a long time. Is that so? Then I'm very happy. Enchanting's heart relaxed, but Tangwa's next sentence made him nervous again. Brother Enchanting, you really have to think about it. With your current ability, you have many choices. Tangwa said very seriously, once you marry me, there will be no chance for you to go back on your word. You have to be loyal to me for the rest of your life. You can't do anything to betray me. If you can't do it, you still have a month to go back on your word. What nonsense are you thinking? Enchanting could only use this all-purpose golden sentence to cover up his guilty conscience. He had already betrayed her, and he even had a child who was related to him by blood. He felt sorry for her in his heart, but he had no intention of breaking the engagement. He only secretly swore that he would treat her well in this life and would never do anything to let her down again. Tangwa did not expose Enchanting. If she were to expose this matter, it would be meaningless. She wanted the other party to take the initiative to expose herself. She wanted everyone to know that she was the one who was hurt and pitiful. She wanted everyone to know that she was the one who had suffered the most. He wanted to make Enchanting lose all his face in this circle. He wanted to make sure that he could no longer mingle in this circle. He would suffer a crushing defeat. His wife and children would be separated. He would not be able to kill his enemy. His son would not acknowledge him. The feeling of a proud person falling back into a quagmire must be the most uncomfortable. Enchanting saw Tang was smiling and thought that she was very happy. Little did he know that this woman, who seemed to be smiling sweetly, was actually thinking about how to cut off pieces of flesh from his body. Brother Enchanting, accompany me to pick out jewelry this weekend. I've seen all the jewelry in the city, and there's nothing that I'm satisfied with. I've heard of a good place that sells all kinds of jewelry. I've already asked someone to book the plane tickets. Enchanting agreed. Although he originally planned to go and see Bai Yanji, it was not a big deal if he did not go for a week. On the weekend, Tanghua and Enchanting took a plane to another city to pick out the jewelry for the wedding. Bai Yanji waited at the school gate for a long time. He waited until the sky turned dark, but Enchanting did not come. His small face showed some disappointment. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for a confidant peak. Chapter 2251. When Bai Ruyu came looking for him, she saw Bai Yanji standing alone outside the school. She hugged him and said, "Yanji, it's already dark. Why aren't you home?" "Mother, I'm sorry for making you worry. Let's go. As long as you're fine, Mother won't be worried." Bai Yanji followed Bai Ruyu home without saying a word. Looking at his downcast appearance, Bai Ruyu looked at the cake on the table and said, "Yanji, it's impossible for your father and mother to be together. He's going to get married in a month. Mother will celebrate your birthday with you today, okay? Mother, why don't you marry father?" "Yanji, it's impossible." "Why?" "Mother and father are from two different worlds. It's because of that woman, right? Once father leaves that woman, he will have nothing. That's why he doesn't want to be with you, right?" "Mother, do you like father?" Bai Ruyu was silent. Originally, she didn't like him, but after interacting with him for a while, especially after Enchanting saved her, how could she not be moved? Enchanting was an outstanding man. No woman wouldn't like him. She was the same. But it was impossible between them. That man didn't like her and was going to get married soon. Bai Ruyu's silence made Bai Yanji understand that she liked Enchanting. So if his mother liked Enchanting, why couldn't they be together? Why did he have to marry that woman and make his mother sad? "Yanji, don't do anything to make your father angry. Do you understand?" Bai Ruyu was afraid that Bai Yanji would cause trouble. She warned him for a long time. After Bai Yanji agreed, she heaved a sigh of relief. Bai Yanji also dispelled the idea of looking for that woman. So, what method should he use to stop his father from marrying that woman? After Bai Ruyu fell asleep, Bai Yanji turned on the computer and looked at the information with a serious expression. "Today is my wedding day. Why are you jumping around the house so early in the morning?" If it didn't know who Tanghua was talking to, the system would have thought that she was crazy for talking to herself in the room. Today was indeed her wedding day. She had dressed up early in the morning. A few days ago, Tang Yunfeng had also left the mountain and returned to the manor for the wedding. How could he not attend his only precious daughter's wedding? After the wedding, he would have to go back to live on the mountain again. To be honest, after living on the mountain for more than 10 years, he really didn't want to come down. Who was Tanghua talking to? Naturally, it was her precious cat. She didn't know why, but this morning, the cat had been jumping up and down in the house. He was either lying on Tanghua's wedding dress and not coming down, or stepping on her jewelry. He looked like a master who did not want to move at all, which made people speechless. Although it wasn't fat, its body was very strong. If it didn't want to move, the people in the manor couldn't do anything about it. In the end, Tanghua bent down and patted its head. "You stepped on my skirt. If you don't get up, you'll go to the garden to look at the stars every night." The servants in the manor all thought that their young miss was a little too rough with Chio. Moreover, what if Chiu understood her threat and got angry and held a grudge against her? It was said that cats were the most vengeful creatures. If its owner bullied it once, it might remember it forever. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm downs. Chat about life, find a confidant peak. Chapter 2252. What no one expected was that after Tangwa spoke, the white cat actually made a pitiful expression and moved its body away from the wedding dress. Of course, it moved very slowly. In any case, it made people feel sad. If this fellow wasn't a cat, they would have thought that its wife was going to marry someone else. Little did they know that their guess was very accurate. After everything was done, Tangwa sat in front of the dressing table, her beautiful eyes staring at the beautiful woman in the mirror who was still in the wheelchair in her wedding dress. The white cat seemed very restless. Although it didn't dare to touch her things, it ran around crazily and finally tore the curtains with its claws. These curtains are very expensive. You can't afford them even if you sell them. The white cat froze and finally walked in front of her. It clearly had a cute face, but it just stared at her with a pair of pitiful eyes. Seeing this, Tangwa reached out and pinched its ears. Her red lips curved into a smile. Be good and don't jump around. I'll bring you to the wedding later. When Su Qing came in, she saw the white cat lying on the dressing table with a hopeless expression. She couldn't help but laugh. Miss, are you bringing Chiu or leaving it in the manor later? It won't make a fuss. If it's good, bring it along. If it dares to make a fuss, I won't bring it along. The system was speechless. It didn't know what was wrong with the great host to be so calculative with a cat. The great host was the only person in Chiu's world, although it didn't want to care about other people. The reason it jumped around today was probably because it knew that the great host was getting married and couldn't bear to part with it. It was scared. Su Qing wasn't surprised to hear Tangwa's words. Although she had never heard of bringing a cat along for the wedding, it didn't mean that it didn't exist. Her miss was the miss of the Tang family. So what if she brought a cat along for the wedding? Come and object if you have the ability. When Enchanting came to pick up Tangwa, he pushed her wheelchair out. Because she had to carry the cat, Enchanting couldn't carry her out. The crowd was stunned when they saw that the cat in her arms was wearing an exquisite little hat. Its fur seemed to have been combed and there was a bow tie on its collar. If it were any other woman, most of the people would talk about it and look at her with disdain. And this person was Tangwa, Tang Yunfeng's daughter. So what if she got married with a cat? This cat's life was probably something that most people in this world could not achieve in their lifetime. What right did they have to laugh at her? Tang Yunfeng didn't think much of it. His baby's wedding was such an important day. So what if she brought a cat along? Moreover, he found this cat pleasing to the eye. For so many years, it had been by his precious daughter's side. It was much more reliable than a man. Tangwa was pushed into the car. In the eyes of outsiders, the smile on her face was a happy smile. When she arrived at the wedding venue, she accidentally saw Cui Yen. Cui Yen noticed her gaze and pretended to look at her with an aggrieved expression, which almost made her spit out the food she had just eaten. She couldn't help but pat the cat in her arms on the head and whispered, "Disgusting. Chiu." She probably didn't mean that it was disgusting. It looked quite cute. Cui Yen also felt that imitating that person's behavior was a little nauseating and disgusting, but who asked it to work on her? System, are you sure it's useful and not about to disgust the host to death? I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2253. Seeing that the wedding was about to be held, the system was a little anxious. If nothing happened, was the host really going to marry Enchanting first? Although Tangwa had used all kinds of excuses to say that they would hold the wedding first and then collect the marriage certificate when they were free. After all, she and Enchanting weren't ordinary people. The things they had to do before collecting the marriage certificate were more complicated. Enchanting didn't think that there was a problem. He thought that as long as they held the wedding and announced it widely, everyone would know that they were married. After the busy time, they would slowly take care of the various things before collecting the marriage certificate. Host, if nothing happens today, you will really marry him. Although you haven't collected the marriage certificate, after the wedding, you will have a full wedding ceremony with him. But after the wedding, many people will have the impression that the two of you are a couple. What's the hurry? If nothing happens, I can pretend to faint. System, damn, so shameless. Who did you learn this from? Tangua's words made the system quiet down. She wasn't afraid that there wouldn't be any accidents at the wedding. The process was slowly going on. Tang Yunfeng's appearance attracted the attention of many people. When they saw that Tang Yunfeng, who was already in his 70s, was still full of energy, with very few wrinkles on his face and few white hairs, they believed the rumors that many people were talking about. At the same time, they were thinking about whether they should pay a visit to Master Hui Guang when they were free and donate some money. When they retired in the future, they should buy a piece of land next to the temple and build a small courtyard for them to retire in. Not only could they live as long as Tang Yunfeng, but they could also stay younger than their peers. Although Tang Yunfeng's appearance attracted the attention of many people, he hadn't appeared in the business world for many years. Now, the younger generation had already developed. Many of the older generation had retired or retired. The name Tang Yunfeng didn't have as much of a deterrent to the people present as it did in the past. Even Enchanting didn't think that Tang Yunfeng had been isolated from the world for so many years. Even if he returned to the company, he would be powerless. Faintly, Enchanting didn't fear Tang Yunfeng as much, but he still respected him in his heart. The wedding ceremony was in progress. Tangua held a bouquet of flowers and sat in a special wheelchair. The cat was still in her arms. Although it looked cute, it didn't look happy. Enchanting pushed Tangua's wheelchair. The two of them walked the red carpet together. It wasn't a long walk down the red carpet, but it still took a while. Enchanting thought in his heart that after walking down the red carpet, they would get married and spend the rest of their lives like this. They would not cause any more waves. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten that he still had a son outside, a son that he had racked his brains to make legitimate. Perhaps he thought that since he was married to Tangua, he was infertile and she was not suitable for pregnancy. They were destined to be childless and might adopt a child in the future. As long as he put in some effort, it would be very easy for him to adopt his own son. When the music stopped, the priest was about to open his mouth to preside over their wedding when the sound of chaotic footsteps suddenly came from outside. Because in the quiet auditorium, the messy footsteps were too eye-catching. Everyone looked outside. The sound of footsteps was accompanied by a woman's voice that sounded like she was about to cry. Wait a minute. As the woman's voice fell, the expressions of the people attending the wedding changed. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talking about life, looking for a confidant, vertex. Chapter 2254. The crowd's originally well-wishing gazes turned into interest and gossip. Could it be that they would be able to eat a big melon at the wedding today? Tang Yunfeng's originally smiling face fell. When he saw the young woman running in, he didn't call for anyone to stop her. Today was his precious daughter's most important day. If there was something wrong with this woman or Enchanting, then it was best to get to the bottom of it. He didn't want his daughter to get married so carelessly. As for face and whatnot, he was an old man who had lived for over 70 years and was almost 80 years old. What face did he need? His daughter's happiness was the most important. Enchanting, can you not get married first? Bai Ru Yu's heart pounded. With so many people from the upper class looking at her, if she didn't have a choice, she really wouldn't have come. If it was any other time, she would definitely be so scared that her legs would go soft and she wouldn't be able to move a single step. Even at this time, her face was pale and her legs were weak. She had no choice but to drag her heavy footsteps toward Enchanting and Tangua's position. Tang Yunfeng had already waved her hand when someone was about to come up and stop her, asking them to leave. When the crowd saw Tang Yunfeng's attitude, they immediately understood that he wanted to get to the bottom of this unknown woman before his precious daughter's wedding. With Tang Yunfeng's love for his daughter, no matter how perfect Enchanting was, as long as he had the slightest intention of letting his precious daughter down, he would rather fight to the death than push his daughter into the fire pit. Thus, Bai Ru Yu smoothly walked in front of Enchanting and Tangua. She even mustered her courage and said to Tangua, Miss Tang, I have a very important matter that will take a few minutes of Mr. Qin's time. So, can you postpone your wedding for a while? Bai Ruyu bit her lips. She was terrified and uneasy. She was terrified because of her guilty conscience when facing Tanghua. She was uneasy because of her son, Bai Yanji. She didn't know why, but since yesterday, Bai Yanji had been running a high fever. He kept calling for his father. At first, she didn't pay attention to him. Even when she sent Bai Yanji to the hospital, he didn't cooperate at all and kept saying that he wanted to see his father. The doctor told her that it would be best if the child's father could meet him. Even if they couldn't meet, they could give the child a call and talk to him. Without a choice, Bai Ruyu came looking for him. She did not intend to take Enchanting away. She only wanted to delay Enchanting for a few minutes so that he could talk to Bai Yanji. She had heard that Miss Tang was a very kind person and that the family Tang had set up a charity foundation in her name. All these years, she would visit the school for the handicapped next door to Yanji's school every year to visit the handicapped children. Therefore, she really didn't do anything. She just wanted to delay for a few minutes. Tangua's lips curled up as she looked at Bai Ruyu with her beautiful eyes. Bai Ruyu felt guilty and didn't dare to look at those clear eyes. She could only lower her head. Those who didn't know the situation would only think that she was afraid to face Tanghua because she felt inferior and nervous. What's so important? Tanghua gently stroked the white cat on her lap. The white cat no longer had a hopeless expression. Instead, it pricked up its ears and looked at Enchanting and Bai Ruyu with interest. There was even a hint of schadenfreude in its eyes. This bad cat was so bad. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2255. Tanghua lowered her head and glanced at it. She couldn't help but knock on its head. She knew that it must be overjoyed. It was really naughty. Bai Ruyu opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. She couldn't tell Tanghua that Enchanting's son, Bai Yanji, wanted to see his father. Otherwise, he wouldn't cooperate with the doctor's treatment. If she really said it, the whole scene would be chaotic. She would also ruin their wedding. Enchanting would hate her to death. If it wasn't for that accident, they wouldn't have had any interactions. In Bai Ruyu's heart, Enchanting had always loved Tanghua deeply. Because of this, she felt guilty in front of Tanghua, but in front of Enchanting, she felt sad and sad. What could she do if she fell in love with someone who didn't love her? Fortunately, they had a child. It was enough for her to have memories in the future. It could be considered as a sustenance. Miss, if you don't have anything important to say, or if you have something to do with work, please step aside and watch the wedding. After everything is over, you can talk about anything you want. Tanghua said in a very gentle tone. She didn't lose her temper because of the sudden appearance of a woman. Instead, it made the people who wanted to watch a good show restrain their thoughts. Miss Tang had always been a very gentle person. No matter what, she had a sense of propriety. If she didn't understand the situation clearly, she wouldn't say or do anything overboard. And this woman was sent by Enchanting's opponent to disturb him and ruin his plans. What's the matter? If it's not something important, I can tell you that you're here to cause trouble and I'll ask the security to escort you out. Enchanting was already guessing whether it was related to Bai Yanji. Even if he was anxious, he couldn't show any concern. If it was discovered, everything would be over. Bai Ruyu looked at the cold Enchanting. It was really hard to associate him with the gentle and smiling man who interacted with Bai Yanji previously. His cold appearance and unfamiliar and repulsive gaze pierced her heart. She opened her mouth and decided to watch the wedding first. She didn't expect that at this moment, her phone would ring. Bai Ruyu hurriedly picked up the call. She didn't know what the other party said, but Bai Ruyu's expression immediately became flustered. Her tears even dripped down, making her look extremely pitiful. If the person getting married today wasn't Tanghua, but any other woman, they would have been angered by Bai Ruyu's appearance and would have taken measures against her. However, Tanghua and Tang Yunfeng didn't do anything. They didn't treat Bai Ruyu rudely either. They didn't give others the impression that they were bullying the weak. If it was an impulsive person, facing a strange woman who had disrupted their wedding, they would most likely say a few words of sarcasm, appearing to be overbearing. At that time, when Bai Ruyu broke down and said that something had happened to Bai Yanji, Qin would disregard everything and leave with a clear conscience. Sometimes, things were just that strange. She was clearly in the wrong, but because she was weak, she was in the right. Miss, I don't know what happened to you that made you cry at my wedding. If it's something urgent, you can tell me. If you really need Qin, I don't mind if you delay him for a while. However, he and I are about to become legally married, so I have the right to know why you're looking for him. Qin had already guessed that something might have happened to Bai Yanji. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2256. Bai Ruyu's crumbling appearance gave him a bad premonition. That was his only son. The anxiety in his heart wasn't any less than Bai Ruyu's. He had just thought of an excuse, but because of Tangua's words, he suppressed it. Mr. Qin, can I trouble you to make a trip with me? I really have something important to tell you. Bai Ruyu was sobbing, looking as though she was about to collapse. This made people scratch their ears and their cheeks. They were extremely curious about the relationship between her and Qin. What was it that she wanted to talk to him about in private instead of in public? They didn't believe that there was nothing fishy going on. What surprised them even more was that Qin actually squatted down and said to Tangua, "Xiaogua, why don't I make a trip with her and ask her what's going on? I'll be back in a while." Qin wanted to go out and ask about the situation first. If something really happened to Bai Yanji, he could inform his confidant to go over and help. Although this wasn't appropriate, he couldn't just watch as something happened to his own son. If anything happened to Bai Yanji, he would regret it for the rest of his life. He naturally didn't notice that after he said that, Tangua and her cat both revealed a mocking expression. Even though this expression only appeared for a moment, it was still there. Brother Qin, I've already allowed her to speak about her difficulties. Even if others can't hear it, we're about to become husband and wife. Can't I hear it? Tangua's gaze seemed as though she could see through him, causing Qin to panic for a moment. She doesn't dare to say it. Is there something between the two of you that you're hiding from me? Although I don't want to guess Brother Qin like this. Tang Yunfeng had long felt that something was amiss. Luckily, Xiaogua and Qin hadn't registered their marriage and the wedding hadn't been held yet. He narrowed his eyes and sized up Bai Ruyu. He waved his hand at his assistant and said softly, "Investigate this woman. Find out everything." "Yes, Mr. Tang." Qin better not have done anything to let his daughter down. "Xiaogua, please believe me. There's nothing between us." Qin was already familiar with lying. His expression didn't change, so no one could see through him. No matter what, he definitely couldn't admit that there was a relationship between him and Bai Ruyu today. When Bai Ruyu heard his resolute words, she felt extremely uncomfortable. But at this moment, she could only hurriedly nod. Her eyes were red as she sobbed, "Miss Tang, I'm really not familiar with Mr. Qin. This time, I had no choice but to look for him. I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. However, I have no choice but to seek him out for this matter. Only he can help me. Tell me what it is. If it's really serious, I won't mind." Tangua looked serious. "Say it." "If you really need Brother Qin, and if you have a legitimate reason that he has no choice but to go, we can choose a better time for our wedding." Bai Ruyu's words were stuck in her throat. She opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. She kept pinching her fingers. Qin furrowed his brows as he looked at her helpless and pitiful look. He thought of how much she loved Bai Yanji. If something really happened to that child, she might not be able to live on. He even felt a little pity for her. Did something happen to Yanji? Bai Ruyu raised her head in shock when Qin took the initiative to speak. "I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak." Chapter 2257. Tangua turned to look at Qin. She raised her eyebrows. What was this person doing? She didn't know that Qin Ting would admit that Bai Yanji was his son. He probably had other plans. She wanted to see what he was going to do. Yes, something happened to Yanji, Bai Ryue said in a flustered tone. Her fingers kept moving and her lips were pale. She didn't know what Qin Ting wanted to do by directly saying Yanji's name. No matter what, she believed that Yanji's biological father wouldn't leave him alone. He must have thought of a good idea. She just needed to cooperate. Is he not obedient and taking his medicine? Is he refusing to be treated? Qin Ting asked with concern. Bai Ryue quickly nodded. Yes, he kept saying that he wanted to see Uncle Qin. I'm sorry, Mr. Qin. I really have no choice but to come to you. He said that if there's no news of Uncle Qin, he won't take his medicine and won't cooperate with the doctor. The doctor said that in order for him to continue receiving treatment, we have to fulfill his wish. So, I can only come to you. I'm sorry to have caused you trouble. The hospital called just now and said that Yanji didn't see you. He pulled out the needle and ran out. We don't know where he is now. Bai Ryue cried as she spoke. She looked very pitiful. Mr. Qin, please help me find Yanji. Qin Ting was also a little flustered. However, he couldn't show too much nervousness at this time. He only showed some worry. This child is so willful. That child is called Bai Yanji. He's the child of this lady in front of you. Qin Ting saw Tang's puzzled expression and explained, previously he contracted a rare disease. I accidentally came across it and saw that this widow and orphan were at their wits' end. I thought that Xiaogua and I might not have a child. The child is so young. It would be a pity if he couldn't be treated because of a lack of money. Firstly, I don't want to feel guilty. Secondly, I want to pray for you. So, I decided to invest in this child's treatment. Tang was sneered in her heart. She showed some realization on her face. So, Brother Qin Ting is doing a good deed. That's understandable. Qin Ting and Bai Ryue heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Tangwa had accepted it. Qin Ting said, I'll arrange for someone to look for Yanji immediately. He's just a child, he can't go far. Tell him that I'll visit him after some time. Bai Ryue's heart calmed down. Yanji had secretly run away. Even if Qin Ting went over, he wouldn't be able to do anything. The fact that he had agreed to send someone to look for her was already a good result. No one present suspected anything, let alone thought that the child was Qin Ting's biological son. Qin Ting was able to make such a straightforward promise because he remembered that he had previously confessed to Tangwa that he would almost never have children in this lifetime. In order to bring his son back in the future, he did not hesitate to let the outside world know about this matter. In addition, he had a reputation for being clean and honest. Who would have thought of this? Thus, even though there were many suspicious points between him and Bai Ruyu, no one suspected that he was related to Bai Jiyan. Tangwa lowered her eyes and sneered. Qin Ting was really good at scheming. He didn't look like a bad person, but the things he did were really bad to the extreme. Bai Ryue retreated into the crowd, feeling relieved. She sadly watched the wedding ceremony continue. There were many people looking at her. She couldn't show anything. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2258. Bai Ryue could only keep looking at her phone, causing others to misunderstand that she was worried about her son and was anxiously waiting for news. When the priest picked up the Bible and prepared to preside over the wedding, he opened his mouth and said, Mr. Qin Ting, may I ask? Before he could continue, he was interrupted by another voice. Excuse me, there's a situation here. This time, it was a man who spoke. Tangwa felt that this voice was somewhat familiar. She raised her head and saw that the man was none other than Cui Yen. When the other party saw her looking over, he gave her a helpless and despicable smile. Tangwa. Wretch. Chiu. Disgusting. System, I can't stand it. The difference was that Cui Yen was carrying a pale-faced child who looked about 5 years old. When Bai Ryue saw the child, she couldn't help but rush over. The child also broke free from Cui Yen and hugged Bai Ryue. When everyone saw this, they immediately understood that the child had been found. Seeing that his complexion wasn't good, they already believed Qin Ting's words. This child was seriously ill. When they looked at Qin Ting, their gazes were much kinder. The suspicion they had just now dissipated. Even though Tang Yunfeng hadn't gotten the woman's information yet, his attitude was much better after seeing this. "Ma, I'm sorry. Yenji, it's good that you're fine. Don't run around in the future, okay?" The scene of the mother and son meeting was somewhat tear-jerking. Although this small episode caused the wedding to be delayed for a long time, Qin Ting had done a good deed and it wouldn't affect the wedding. It would only make people feel that his character was good. If this happened during the wedding, it might be a good memory. However, they were too naive. When Bai Yenji ran in front of Qin Ting and hugged his trousers, everyone thought that he was still attached to this kind person who saved him. Unexpectedly, Bai Yenji shouted, "Dad, Yenji misses you so much. Don't marry that woman, okay? Stay with Mom, okay? I need you. Mom also needs you. Let's live happily as a family of 3, okay?" Everyone present felt as if their hearts were being hammered by a heavy hammer, and their faces were also being slapped. At the same time, before everyone could react, he let go of Qin Ting and ran in front of Tanghua. He put on a pitiful look and said, "Pretty auntie, don't take my father away, okay? My father is mine and my mother's. Auntie is so beautiful, there must be a lot of people who like you. Why must you snatch my father away?" Yenji really couldn't afford to lose his father. Mom will be very sad without Dad. If it weren't for the fact that everyone present was clear-headed and that Tanghua had no stains on her, they would probably have been led astray by the child's naive words. What did he mean by Tanghua snatched his father away? If Qin Ting was really his father, it could only mean that Qin Ting had an affair. Many years ago, Tanghua and Qin Ting were already engaged. Considering this child's age, if he really had something to do with Qin Ting, then he was really cheating. Bai Ruyu also panicked. Qin Ting froze on the spot. His brain instantly exploded. Bai Ruyu was the first to react. She ran in front of Bai Yenji and carried him up. "Yenji, don't call him that. This is your Uncle Qin. Although Mom knows that you miss your father, Uncle Qin really isn't your biological father." She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2259. Yenji, be good. If you call him that, Uncle Qin's wife will misunderstand. Previously, Uncle Qin agreed to let you call him that to appease you. Now that Uncle Qin is about to get married, you can't call him that anymore. Do you understand? Yenji, are you listening to your mother? Seeing Bai Ruyu's angry and sad expression, Bai Ji clenched his small hands into fists and lowered his head without saying anything. Bai Ruyu heaved a sigh of relief. She hugged Bai Yenji and Tanghua and said apologetically, "Miss Tang, please don't misunderstand. Yenji was just randomly calling him that. He didn't have a father since he was born. Since Mr. Qin helped us, he couldn't help but say that. Actually, it's also my fault. I originally wanted to take Yenji as my godson, so I didn't stop them." Qin Ting also reacted. His mind spun quickly and he had an idea. "Originally, I planned to discuss with Xiaogua after the wedding to see if I could take Yenji as my godson. Xiaogua, do you still remember what I told you last time? We won't have any children. Yenji is a smart and pitiful child. I want to take him as my godson." Tanghua's lips curled up slightly. This man was really fucking shameless. One move after another, such a young child. If she really rejected him directly and heartlessly, it wouldn't affect her status at all. There would also be people who would talk about how she could accept a sick child. Tang Yunfeng's expression darkened. He urged his assistant beside him, "Have you found anything? Mr. Tang, please wait. It should be soon." After all, it was a person's information. It couldn't be found in minutes. It would still take some time. Hurry them up. Get them to hurry up. Tang Yunfeng felt that there was no point in continuing this wedding. Regardless of whether Qin Ting was related to this child and this woman, his daughter had been wronged today. His daughter definitely couldn't be the bad guy. As her father, he was the most suitable person to be the bad guy. Xiaogua, if you don't agree, then forget it. Let's proceed with the wedding first. Qin also felt that he was too hasty. He reached out his hand and patted Tanggua's head. Bai Ruyu hugged Bai Yanji as she warned him softly, Yanji, if you continue to spout nonsense, Mother won't want you anymore. You've already caused a lot of trouble today. Mother is very angry. Although Bai Yanji was unwilling, he didn't dare to say anything else. He just pursed his lips and looked at Qin with his red eyes. Just as Qin was about to let the priest continue, Tang Yunfeng stood up. Wait a minute. Uncle Tang? Qin was a little puzzled. Why did Tang Yunfeng stand up to stop him at this time? Tang Yunfeng waved his hand. Let's hold the wedding after I figure things out. Everyone, just take it that I, Tang Yunfeng, am being unreasonable and can't bear to part with my precious daughter. I'm afraid she'll suffer. I've been confused from the beginning to the end. I'm a suspicious person by nature, so I have to investigate everything clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Yunfeng felt Qin and Bai Rui's expressions change. He immediately tightened his grip on the string of Buddhist beads in his hand. As expected, there was something fishy going on. Seeing that there was nothing for him to do, Cui Yen didn't plan to interfere. He didn't want to do too much and arouse her suspicions. He just wanted to obediently watch the show from the side. Time passed by minute. It didn't take long. They only waited for about 3 minutes. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2260. When Tang Yunfeng took out his phone and flipped it open, his expression didn't reveal anything. Qin was very nervous. Tang Yunfeng hadn't done anything for so many years. Actually, it wouldn't be easy for him to investigate anything. After all, after he found out that he had a biological son, he had erased a lot of evidence to prevent trouble in the future. In just a short while, he thought that Tang Yunfeng wouldn't be able to find anything. Indeed, Qin had erased all traces of his affair. Although Tang Yunfeng found something strange, there was no evidence to prove that Qin and Bai Rui were related. After all, there really wasn't any emotional entanglement between them. The two of them had sex many years ago. He had erased all the records. It had been a long time. What could he find in such a short time? Tang Yunfeng frowned. It seemed that there was no problem with Qin. When Tangua saw his expression, she knew that he hadn't found anything. Qin wasn't a fool. He had such a big weakness. After he found out that his biological son had such a big weakness, he would definitely erase some evidence if he wanted to make his son the rightful wife. But if he wanted to get away with it like this, he was dreaming. In the end, Tang Yunfeng raised his head and said, "Let the wedding continue." Without finding any evidence, he couldn't stop the wedding even if he still had doubts in his heart. Anyway, he was still alive. He wasn't afraid of anything. As long as he ordered someone to keep an eye on that woman and that child in the future, if there was any problem, his precious daughter would definitely not be wronged. This time, the priest could finally officiate the wedding smoothly. Everyone thought that the wedding could finally proceed. However, the heavens often didn't go according to one's wishes. This time, the problem didn't lie with anyone but with the bride. When the priest wanted them to exchange rings, Tangua suddenly interrupted, "Brother Qin, the priest just said that there shouldn't be any secrets between husband and wife. A husband can't lie to his wife. He has to be loyal to his wife and can't do anything to betray his wife. So now I have another question. I want to ask Brother Qin if he has done anything to betray me." Everyone was shocked. There couldn't be any more trouble, right? Cui Yen, who was standing in the corner, subconsciously touched his chin. Sure enough, his guess was right. In the end, the one who stirred up trouble was still this woman. This had never changed. Qin was a little puzzled. When he met Tangua's serious gaze, he subconsciously thought that it was because of the chaos just now that made her feel insecure, so she asked. He said very seriously, "Xiaogua, I swear here that I will never betray you, nor have I done anything that betrays you." I will only be loyal in this life and will never lie to you. He had thought that Tangguo would be touched by what he had done. Unexpectedly, she continued to ask, "What if I did?" Ting hadn't thought about this question before and didn't know how to answer for a moment. After thinking for a while, he said, "If I do it, Ting, will die a horrible death." Then he saw Tangguo smile. Her smile was especially happy and sweet. He thought that he had passed this hurdle and that the next step would be smooth sailing. However, he was too naive. Ting, I don't want to die a horrible death. I just need you to get out of my family, Tang." The woman who was sitting in a wheelchair and hugging a white cat was wearing a wedding dress. Her lips were painted red, and she spat out a sentence that left people at a loss for words. Chapter 2261. Ting was stunned. He didn't quite understand whether Tangguo was joking or warning him. "Okay, if I really did something that I'm sorry about, I'll get lost." Ting thought that Tangguo wanted him to swear. Although he was a little unhappy, he had no choice but to tolerate it. Tangguo chuckled and pointed to the door. "Then get lost now. Take your wife and child along the way. The three of you should quickly go and reunite. I don't dare to stop true love." Xiaogua? Ting was really flustered. Is there a misunderstanding? Tang Yunfeng had already brought people to stand beside Tangguo. He stared coldly at Ting. "Xiaogua wants to get lost, so get lost." He knew that there was definitely something wrong with Ting. It was just that he didn't have evidence. Now that Xiaogua didn't want him anymore, Tang Yunfeng was happy to see it. Today's farce made his baby feel wronged and embarrassed. How could Ting still have the face to marry his baby? "Xiaogua, if there's anything, we can talk about it clearly and have a good talk." Ting didn't think that Tangguo really knew anything. She probably couldn't help it just now and used it as a pretext to make a fuss. "Today is a good day for our wedding. Don't make a fuss, okay?" "You mean that I'm making a fuss and being unreasonable? Because of what happened just now, I'm using it as a pretext to make a fuss and throw a tantrum? Wasn't it?" System, Ting was finished. After today, his reputation would be ruined and he would have nothing. Facing Tang Yunfeng, Ting of course didn't dare to say that, even if he thought so in his heart. "Xiaogua, I really have nothing to do with them." Are you sure you have nothing to do with them? Could it be that the child isn't your biological son?" Ting, not only did you betray me and deceive me, you even want me to adopt my biological son and let this illegitimate son become our legitimate son. In the future, he will inherit my family's assets, right? "Xiaogua, I told you before that I might not have children in my life. The doctor said it's possible. Similarly, he also said that a miracle can't be ruled out." Ting was speechless. "Why don't we do a paternity test? How about it?" She thought that I was using this as a pretext to make a fuss, throwing tantrums, and messing around at the wedding. Then let's use science to do things. Whether it's true or not, won't we know once we test it? You can take your father away now. Tangguo's eyes met by Yenji's. There was no malice in her eyes. She just said calmly, "But I want to make one thing clear. I didn't take your father away. Your father might have found his true love, your mother, when I was engaged to him. The two of them couldn't help but get together, and then they had a child. Since you two are lovers, I don't want to be the bad guy and break up your family. People will say that I'm the daughter of the Tang family and that I'm stealing someone else's man and father just because I have some money and status. What happened before was just my bad luck. I was careless and got cuckolded. Although I'm very angry, this is a society ruled by law. I can't kill her. I can only break her up and find a more obedient one next time." Her sarcastic tone made the people present not know whether to laugh or cry. Tangguo didn't make a fuss. She just calmly explained the problem. When she suggested a paternity test, Ting and Bai Ruyue both fell silent. It was obvious that what she said was true. Chapter 2262. Ting had really cheated and had a child. What was even more ridiculous was that he actually wanted to support his illegitimate son. He clearly knew that Miss Family Tang's body did not allow her to have a child, but he still did it. Not only did he betray her, he even wanted to bring his illegitimate son back to adopt. It was fine if she found out now, but if she didn't, this child would have to inherit the Family Tang's assets in the future. Just thinking about it made her feel extremely uncomfortable. His original infatuated, aloof, and despicable image instantly collapsed at this moment, and he became a scheming scumbag. His own woman came looking for him, but he could actually marry someone else without batting an eyelid. His own son came looking for him, but he could also lie and say that this was a child he planned to adopt. He wanted to take advantage of the marriage to support his son. Scumbag, this Enchanting was really a scumbag. For so many years, he had pretended so well that they all believed that he was a good person. It turned out that this person had wild ambitions and simply wanted to scheme for the Family Tang's assets. Seeing the gazes of the people around him, Enchanting wanted to explain something, but the truth in front of him made him unable to. At first, he wanted to adopt his son because he and Tangwa did not have a child. In the future, such a big family fortune would be taken advantage of by others, so he might as well let his son inherit it. No matter what, this Family Tang's assets were also part of his hard work. He had worked hard all his life, and his son would inherit the family fortune. In the future, he would also be filial to Tangwa. But now, everything had become a bubble. At this moment, Enchanting still had his own pride. Even though he was a little reluctant to work so hard in the Family Tang's company for so long, he also felt that without him, there would definitely be turmoil in the Family Tang's company. Fortunately, he already had a plan and did not panic at all. With so many years of experience, he thought that it would not take long for him to surpass the Family Tang. Since everything had been pointed out and Tangwa did not give him any face, he could only bear all of this. Xiaogua, no matter what, I still have to say that Yanji's appearance was indeed an accident. I never thought of betraying him. Tangwa looked up and asked with a smile, then why did you hide it from me? If you're afraid of losing me, why do you want to adopt your son? If he was afraid of losing me, even if he knew that he had a son outside, shouldn't he have pretended not to know? He even sent them far away. It's impossible for them to recognize him. Obviously, this child is also a pleasant surprise. I hope to raise him by my side. Enchanting, you don't like me, right? Since you don't like me, why don't you just tell me? There's nothing wrong with my Family Tang. My dad even groomed her. Don't act like I'm heartless. Me, my dad, and my Family Tang have never done anything wrong. On the contrary, what I'm about to do, will hurt my father and me. Enchanting was speechless. All right, let's go. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome in Family Tang either. My son is already so old. Now that he has left the Family Tang, he doesn't have any assets for him to inherit. It's better for him to work hard in society for a few years so that he can inherit it. Enchanting's face darkened, but at the same time, he felt relieved. It seemed that the Family Tang did not know that he had secretly set up a company outside. With the company in his hands, Enchanting could still make a name for himself. Tang Yunfeng was a little angry. He wanted to say something, but it seemed that his precious daughter had finished everything. Peek. Chapter 2263. Now, his precious daughter was still pulling him, indicating for him to leave. Tang Yunfeng thought to himself that there would be plenty of time in the future. Enchanting was so unkind. He had plenty of ways to deal with this heartless thing. Suddenly, Tang Yunfeng shuddered and remembered something. Back then, Master Hui Guang said that his Family Tang would be taken away by a traitor. From the signs over the years, there was no one who could swallow his Family Tang in one fell swoop. But this traitor was Enchanting, and what about Enchanting's son? If he, Tang Yunfeng, had died back then, his precious daughter would have married Enchanting, and Enchanting's son would have been smoothly adopted. That child was so close to his mother. He would definitely have interfered and harmed his daughter. Even if that woman didn't win Enchanting's heart at the beginning, she had given birth to a son for Enchanting. His daughter would be alone and agitated by this family of three. He was afraid that she wouldn't be so rational. At that time, without him, her father, around, no matter what she did, she would definitely be bullied by Enchanting. In the end, the two of them would fall out, and the mistress would lead the son to the top. Not only would this family get his family Tang's property, but they would also bully his precious daughter to death. They would even ruin her reputation and give her the title of a vicious woman. The more he thought about it, the more Tang Yunfeng felt that it was possible. If that was the case, wouldn't he have led a wolf into the house? Tang Yunfeng's face was livid. He pushed Tang's wheelchair, and he was extremely angry. This matter absolutely couldn't be let go like this. However, he didn't dare to act rashly. He still asked someone to ask Master Hui Guang if he could intervene. He was afraid that he would have an accident and no one would support his daughter, so he didn't dare to violate the taboo. Last night, Tangwa had no choice but to create another dream for Master Hui Guang. At this point, it was time for Tang Yunfeng to come out again. Therefore, when the person Tang Yunfeng sent to the mountain returned that day, Master Hui Guang asked that person to bring back a sentence to Tang Yunfeng. The traitor has appeared. Benefactor Tang can come out again. In the future, everything will be smooth. There will be no more taboos. Hearing this, Tang Yunfeng finally felt a weight lifted off his shoulders. The next morning, she had breakfast with Tangwa and planned to go to the company. Then, he saw that Tangwa's complexion was not bad, and that his daughter's health had been good all these years. An idea came to his mind. Xiaogua, how about accompanying Daddy to the company? Dad, are you going to teach me how to manage the company? Tang Yunfeng's thoughts were exposed, but he did not deny it. Master Hui Guang said that I can still live for a long time. Xiaogua's health has been getting better and better these years. Father hopes that some things can be grasped in Xiaogua's hands. No one can be relied on. Only when one is strong will one not be bullied. Now that Tang Yunfeng didn't want to find a marriage partner for his daughter for the time being, how many of those who were willing were sincere? Tangwa readily agreed. Just as the father and daughter were about to leave, the white cat jumped onto her lap. Dad, let me take care of Chiuchiu. It can't leave my side for even a minute. Okay, take it with you. Other than Daddy, I think this little guy cares about you the most. The more Tang Yunfeng looked at this cat, the more he liked it. No matter what, it would stick to Xiaogua. It could be seen that his daughter must be the most important in its heart. He helped Enchanting single-handedly back then, but he couldn't even compare to this cat. Because Tang Yunfeng liked this cat very much, Chiuchiu's status rose again. Later on, he even built a small playground for it. Although it didn't play much, Tang Yunfeng was happy. Tangwa didn't stop him. He wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2264. Everyone had expected Tang Yunfeng to make a comeback. After all, Enchanting had already been chased away. Everyone in the circle was ashamed of what he had done. Now, everyone was staring at Tang Yunfeng. They didn't plan to pay attention to Enchanting. They wanted to see this brat's miserable appearance. Wasn't he amazing before? However, they didn't expect Tang Yunfeng to bring Tangwa along. He was planning to nurture his daughter. Even though Tangwa's legs were crippled, her body was much better now. It could be seen that Tang Yunfeng didn't trust outsiders. He felt that it was better for his daughter to have power. However, Miss Tang was always hugging her cat, which made it difficult for many people to look at her. After all, she didn't have any foundation. She had always been pampered and lived a luxurious life. How could she manage such a big company? Moreover, there were so many branch companies under the name of the company. However, what surprised everyone was that Tangwa had adapted well. Her ability was outstanding. She was simply born to do this. Tang Yunfeng was shocked. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity. He was nervous about Xiaogua's fate. If it wasn't for those encounters, she would have grown up to be dazzling. Her talent was much better than Enchanting's. She was indeed Tang Yunfeng's daughter. After discovering Tangwa's talent, Tang Yunfeng didn't have the time to torment Enchanting. He also felt that there was nothing to torment. He might as well teach his daughter first. He had a clear grasp of Enchanting's background. He could make things difficult for him at any time. After the commotion at the wedding, Ting left the scene with Bai Ryue and her son under everyone's strange gazes. After leaving the scene, Bai Ryue apologized to Ting with red eyes. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. If I took care of Yanji and didn't fall sick, none of this would have happened. Ting, I'm really sorry. I never wanted to ruin your life. I'm sorry." Ting couldn't bring himself to blame Bai Ryue when he saw her crying. Now that he had calmed down, he said to Bai Ryue, "You don't have to apologize. Even if you didn't appear today, the outcome wouldn't have been good." Facing Bai Ryue's doubts, Ting calmly analyzed, Xiaogua probably already knew about this matter and planned to make a big fuss at the wedding to end everything and ruin my reputation. She has a grudge against me, but I didn't expect to drag you guys into this. Ting had always thought that his betrayal was unintentional and that it was just an accident. As for Tanggua, she was indeed Tang Yunfeng's daughter. Although she looked innocent, she was actually quite scheming. Since Bai Ryue didn't appear today, she definitely had other plans. With Bai Ryue's appearance, she naturally exposed all of his secrets, causing him to be in a dilemma. He had to start all over again. Fortunately, he had made preparations many years ago and didn't end up with nothing. Bai Ryue also remembered how certain Tanggua was. She most likely knew about this matter. Yes, she was the miss of the family Tang group. Wasn't it easy for her to know something? I just don't know when she started to suspect me. Ting silently thought that if they had been suspicious from the start and had even dug such a pit for him, then they were deliberately trying to ruin his reputation. The bit of guilt in his heart had also disappeared. Instead, Ting felt very guilty towards Bai Ryue and her son. Bai Ryue seemed to have understood something and hugged Ting tightly. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2265. Daddy, you won't leave me in the future, right? Facing this adorable son, Ting's heart softened. He carried him and said, "Yes, Daddy won't leave Yanji in the future. Let's go, Daddy will bring you to the hospital." "Daddy, will you live with me in the future?" Ting was silent for a while before replying, "Yes." "Then you will live with Mommy too." "Yanji, Daddy, right?" Ting replied, "Yes." This family of three seemed to be reunited. In less than 2 days, Bai Yanji's illness was cured. Ting started to devote himself to a new job. He went to the company under his name and started his behind-the-scenes operation. Those who thought that he, Ting, would never recover from this setback, right? The next time he appeared at a business cocktail party, he would definitely surprise them. As for Bai Ryue, after work, she would prepare a meal for the father and son. The delicious meal made Ting feel a warmth that he had never felt before. He used to feel that something was missing between him and Tanggua. It seemed to be reflected by this woman called Bai Ryue. Now, he seemed to have understood something. Bai Yanji was happy. The relationship between Ting and Bai Ryue slowly warmed up. Tanggua didn't know about all these. If she knew, she would probably say that the male and female leads were indeed inseparable. Now, she was busy managing the company. Ting was chased out, so she had to show some ability and manage the family Tang's company well. She knew clearly what Ting was thinking. He thought that she couldn't handle it and that Tang Yunfeng had left society for a long time. Sorry, he would definitely be disappointed in the end. This scumbag, I can finally teach him a lesson. The system was eager to give it a try. Tanggua's first step was to let things happen. The second step was to let everyone know Ting's true colors. The third step was to let Ting have nothing. The fourth step was to surpass him and become someone he couldn't surpass. As for the fifth step, it was up to Ting's family of three. She didn't intend to interfere. When a high-spirited man with a high status lost everything one day and became a drowning dog that everyone could yell at and beat, unable to climb back up, he would find all kinds of excuses. He would look for all sorts of reasons. What exactly was the reason that caused him to fall into this state today? Even if he blamed her in his heart, he couldn't afford to offend her or touch her. Anyone would pick a soft persimmon to bully, and Enchanting was the same. He couldn't afford to offend her, so he could only pinch Bai Ruyu. Originally, there weren't any feelings between the two of them. When Tangwa thought of this, her lips curled into a smile. She was really looking forward to it. She felt the cat on her lap move. She lowered her head and saw it staring at her as if asking, "Are you happy?" "Of course I'm happy." This segment is the happiest I've ever been. Tangwa pinched the white cat's face and pulled. "So, you have to be good and don't make me angry. Otherwise, you'll end up like Enchanting. If you don't listen to me and go out to look for stray cats, I'll send you to the pet hospital and have you sterilized." System, he suspects that the host lacks love, so he started to become perverted. Chio. Tangwa laughed out loud when she saw the white cat subconsciously tucking its tail between its legs and pretending that it didn't hear anything. Chapter 2266. Enchanting was afraid that if he was exposed, he would be suppressed by Tang Yunfeng. Therefore, for the past year or so, he chose to lurk behind the scenes and plan for his new company. With his single-minded development of the company took a big step forward in just a few months. Now that more than a year had passed, many people paid more attention to the company. They did not expect that this originally inconspicuous company would suddenly change its style and develop rapidly. They only knew that the boss behind the company was a very powerful person, but the other party was very mysterious, causing many people to speculate. In all the previous business cocktail parties, the behind-the-scenes boss did not show up and only sent a representative. However, this time, they heard that the boss behind the company seemed to be preparing to show up and participate in today's grand business cocktail party. After all, this cocktail party was still very important, and the bosses of many domestic companies were coming. If they exchanged resources with these bosses, it would definitely be good for the company's development. No matter how powerful the other party was, they would not be able to resist such a temptation. Enchanting really could not refuse. He also thought that with the company's current scale, even if Tang Yunfeng wanted to deal with him, he would have to think twice. Otherwise, the gains would not make up for the losses. He was focused on developing the company, hiding behind the scenes and not participating in various parties. In addition, he deliberately avoided Tangwa. Because in his expectation, Family Tang should be in chaos for a while. In the end, it would be calmed down by Tang Yunfeng, and it would definitely be greatly damaged. As for Tangwa, it was not important. He had no idea that the person who was really in control of the company under Family Tang's name was Tangwa. He was low-key behind the scenes. Could Tangwa not do the same? Compared to his mysterious boss, everyone was actually more amazed by Tangwa. Who would have thought that Miss Family Tang did not lose the demeanor of Tang Yunfeng when he was young? On the contrary, the student surpassed the master. Tangwa arrived at the cocktail party early. Of course, she was still holding the white cat in her arms. In addition to Su Qing, who took care of her life, she also had 2 tall bodyguards and 2 assistants who assisted her in handling the company's affairs. These people were all carefully selected by Tang Yunfeng. Tangwa was also the only one who didn't wear a suit as a businesswoman. Because of her physical condition, she couldn't wear that kind of slim-fit suit. She only chose a relatively good-looking long dress. It looked like she had been invited to this banquet with Tang Yunfeng. The people who came to the banquet today more or less brought their partners or family members. When the banquet was about to start, Enchanting arrived with Bai Ruyu and her son. He walked in the center. Bai Ruyu was wearing a high-end custom-made gown and was holding his arm. She was also wearing expensive and exquisite jewelry. Enchanting's other hand was holding Bai Yanji, who was already very good-looking despite his young age. The family of 3 did indeed have outstanding appearances and attracted a lot of attention. Most of the people here had been invited to Tangwa's wedding. Even if they didn't know Bai Ruyu and her son, they knew Enchanting. Seeing the 3 of them coming over in such a grand manner, they secretly wondered what was going on. Some people who were familiar with Enchanting introduced him to everyone. He was the boss behind Yen Hao that they had been guessing. It turned out that the person who had made Yen Hao create countless miracles over the past year was Enchanting. For a moment, Many people felt uncomfortable in their hearts. I remember that Yen Hao has a history of several years now, right? The summit. Chapter 2267. Back then, this company was alright, but it wasn't very eye-catching. Although I don't remember the exact time, Yen Hao definitely started it more than 2 years ago. Some people were discussing in a low voice, and they immediately reacted. If Yen Hao was Ting's company, then it meant that he didn't set it up after leaving the Family Tang Company. Instead, he set it up when he was still managing the Family Tang Company and borrowed the power of the Family Tang Company. After everyone reacted, they looked at Ting with strange gazes. Their eyes were filled with shamelessness, causing Ting's face to darken. Bai Ruyu felt uncomfortable when she heard this. Although she didn't understand these things, she could still hear the good and bad words. Naturally, she could also tell that these people were just jealous of Ting's ability. Pride rose in her heart. This was her man. Now, this man was standing by her side. There wasn't any passionate love between them, but they were a family of 3. She was very satisfied. Moreover, she also saw many people of the same sex looking at them with envy and jealousy. She couldn't help but feel proud. As for Tanghua, who was surrounded by a crowd of people, she naturally saw it at first glance. Compared to the past, when she faced Tanghua, she always felt inferior because of the difference in status. Now that she was Ting's woman and the mother of Ting's biological son, her status gradually rose. When she faced Tanghua, she felt less inferior. However, when Tanghua looked up at her, she still felt a little guilty. Is it that woman who shamelessly seduced Ting to have an affair? It should be her. Although I haven't seen her before, who else could it be other than her? We all know about Ting's illness. It's hard for him to have a child in this lifetime. If this woman wasn't lucky and gave birth to a son, would she have been able to get married? That's really shameless. I heard that this woman personally came to the wedding with that child to snatch Ting away. It's a long story. Anyway, you just need to know that this family is shameless. A woman snorted coldly. If Miss Tang wasn't smart enough to see through Ting's wild ambition, she would have gotten married in a muddle-headed manner and helped him raise his illegitimate child in the future. The woman's words made the surrounding young men and women interested. Not everyone attended the wedding more than a year ago. This group of young people had just returned from overseas a few months ago. They only knew that the incident had caused quite a stir back then. Almost everyone knew that Ting was a shameless person, but the specifics of the matter were not publicized for the sake of the family. And for today's business meeting, they weren't going to be polite. After doing such a dirty thing, there was no need to be afraid of others talking about it. The statuses of these youngsters were not bad. Any one of them would not be afraid of Ting. Their voices were not soft, and their unpleasant words reached the ears of Ting's family of 3. Ting's expression was gloomy while Bai Ruyu's face was as pale as paper. As for Bai Yanji, he had a cold expression as he glared at these people. Tang Yunfeng didn't come to today's business cocktail party. It was Tanghua who told him not to come. She told him to stay at home and recuperate. In the past year or so, Tang Yunfeng was very satisfied with Tanghua's achievements and skills. He was relieved to leave everything to his precious daughter. If he had known that his precious daughter was so powerful, why would he have entrusted his hopes to someone else? Chapter 2268. The wave of mockery just now ended when most of the people at the banquet were present. After all, today was a big day. No one wanted to do anything too rude. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a few young men and women stirring up trouble. They were young people after all. It was normal for them to gossip. When some of the older people heard it, they would just laugh and let it go. As for the rest, they didn't care. After all, they had already achieved their goal of ostracizing this family of 3. Ting knew a lot of people here. However, there were only a few people who were close to him now. If it was said that everyone was still observing a year ago, then now, after more than a year, they didn't need to hesitate anymore. Following the family Tang was the most important thing. No matter how capable Enchanting was, could he be compared to the family Tang camel? They didn't just simply despise Enchanting. If it was just his character, as long as it didn't harm their interests, no one would help the family Tang and fight for justice for Tangua. They would alienate and ostracize him. However, Enchanting's appearance and Yenhao's development in the past year had already affected the development of their company. Now, they had a very good excuse. They had to take advantage of this opportunity to attack Enchanting. It would be best if they could chase him out of this circle. What they didn't understand was that the family Tang didn't take any action. The older generation who understood Tang Yunfeng said that his daughter had suffered such a big loss. It was impossible for him to be magnanimous and let Enchanting go. They guessed that he was planning something to give Enchanting a fatal blow. Their guess wasn't wrong. Tang Yunfeng was indeed thinking that way. Of course, if it wasn't for Tangua telling him some things, he would have already made a move. The reason why he hadn't made a move until now was because Tangua had stopped him. As for Tangua's goal, it was very simple. First, she wanted to let Enchanting taste some benefits. Then, she would defeat him step by step. She wanted him to watch the results of his hard work go up in smoke. Although this was very cruel, she felt that it wasn't cruel at all to deal with Enchanting. As for Bai Ruyu, she didn't think of doing anything to her. As long as Enchanting lost everything and couldn't take revenge, Bai Ruyu wouldn't have a good life. In the entire banquet, there were only a few people around Enchanting. These people felt the disdainful and indifferent gazes from the surroundings, and their hearts were actually not feeling good. Now that Enchanting was being ostracized, those who followed Enchanting had lost all their connections. Bai Ruyu was holding Bai Yanji's hand as they sat on a sofa in the corner. Everyone else was standing in groups of 3 to 5, chatting and laughing. Only the mother and son pair had no one within 2 meters of them. From time to time, Bai Ruyu could feel the ostracism, disdain, and disgust from those people. She gradually became restless. The high-end custom-made gown and exquisite and expensive jewelry on her body could no longer give her any confidence. Her snow-white neck, which had been proudly raised, had no choice but to slowly shrink back because of the attacks from those people. Bai Yanji could feel Bai Ruyu's sadness. He held her hand and said, "Mom, let's go. Daddy is still here. We can't leave at this time. Be good, Yanji. Wait a little longer." She knew that Enchanting came to this cocktail party today because he wanted to cooperate with someone. But she looked at Enchanting walking towards Tangua. Her heart tightened as she stared at him without blinking. A middle-aged man was sitting beside Tangua. He was chatting and laughing with her. It could be seen that they were chatting happily. Peek. Chapter 2269. Enchanting's arrival made Tangua and the middle-aged man stop talking, and the surroundings became quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned to look at them. After all, with Enchanting and Tangua's relationship, whether they wanted to attack Enchanting, watch the family Tang make a move, or gossip, they would listen carefully and watch. "Mr. Alcohol, I wonder if it's convenient for us to talk alone?" Enchanting was very confident in his ability. "I have a good project here. If it's convenient for you, why don't you take a look? You might be interested after reading it." As Enchanting spoke, he glanced at Tangua. He saw that she didn't seem to have changed. No, there was still a change. There was an indescribable aura around her. However, he didn't think too much about it. He thought that Mr. Alcohol was able to talk to Tangua because it was inconvenient for Tang Yunfeng to come over, so he asked Tangua to come. Mr. Alcohol was able to talk to her happily. He thought that it was because of Tang Yunfeng. In his opinion, businessmen were always successful. As long as he had the ability to make everyone earn money, even if his relationship with the family Tang was strained, most people would choose to eat meat with him for the sake of benefits instead of protecting the family Tang's interests. Enchanting was too confident in himself. He had never thought that if he could find a big piece of meat and ask everyone to eat it together, wouldn't Tangua be able to find a bigger piece of meat? Mr. Alcohol sized up Enchanting and smiled faintly. "It might not be convenient because I've already decided to work with Miss Tang. I'm interested in a project in Miss Tang's hands." "Mr. Alcohol, you haven't heard it yet. How do you know that my project can't compare to?" Miss Tang's? Ting had no choice. This project concerned the future development of the company. The only person who had connections in this aspect and the ability to take it down was Mr. Alcohol. As long as Mr. Alcohol agreed, he could guarantee that the company would take another big step forward. He was very confident that he could take this project to the extreme. Mr. Alcohol smiled. Miss Tang's offer was too tempting. I couldn't refuse and have already agreed to it. No matter how good the project in my hands is, I can't go back on my word. So, I don't want to hear what she wants to say. To be able to sit in this position, one must have a good eye for people. Based on the information he had obtained, as well as the confrontation tonight, Tangwa didn't even look at Ting, and Ting's family was ostracized by everyone. And Ting couldn't wait to come over to talk business with him, as if he would definitely agree to this project. Wasn't this a little too arrogant and condescending? Ting's actions back then also made him feel extremely ashamed. He even openly invited Bai Ryue and her son to the banquet. It was as if he was afraid that others wouldn't remember the despicable things he had done. With one look, one could tell that he was a fool who was still daydreaming. In the end, he was more optimistic about the young and beautiful Miss Tang in front of him, who had a strong will despite her physical disability. Tangwa had only been in charge of the company for less than a year, but she had already managed everything well. In the business world, he had sharp eyes and acted decisively. It could be said that he had completely surpassed Ting. In addition, Tang Yunfeng was there. With the foundation of the family Tang style, even a fool would know what to choose. What's more, he had a better relationship with the family Tang style. Ting really didn't expect Mr. Alcohol to reject him so straightforwardly. He subconsciously glanced at Tangwa. He was sure that Tangwa was causing trouble and didn't want him to have an easy time. Peek. Chapter 2270. Boss Gio, I hope you won't regret missing out on this project. Regret? When Boss Gio heard this, he almost laughed out loud. Was there something wrong with this Ting's brain? If they were talking about business, then they were talking about business. Even if the deal didn't work out, they would still be benevolent. Who knew, they might have a chance to work together in the future. Now that he had rejected Ting, the other party actually threatened him as if it would be a loss if he didn't agree. Instantly, his impression of Ting dropped to the bottom. He dared to guarantee that Ting was the only person in Tang Yunfeng's life that he had misjudged. What a disgrace. Seeing that Boss Gio was still chatting and laughing with Tangwa and even talking about visiting Tang Yunfeng at the manor another day, Ting's expression turned ugly even though he didn't care about other people's opinions. He turned around and left. When he turned around, he saw Bai Ryue and her son, who were left out in the corner. He also heard some women pointing at Bai Ryue and her son. Anger rose in his heart. He quickly walked over and hugged Bai Ryu. At the same time, he held Bai Yenji's small hand. Let's go. Sooner or later, he would make the people here regret their actions. Just wait and see. When they arrived at the entrance of the banquet, Ting saw Bai Ryue's obedient appearance and suddenly said, "One day, I will make them all envious and not dare to talk about me." Bai Ryue was so touched that she cried and let him stuff her into the car. After the family of three left, the crowd only glanced at them before continuing to talk with the people in front of them. They weren't here to play at such an important banquet. They were here to exchange resources. It had been a few years since so many people had come. They didn't even put Ting in their eyes. They just didn't understand why the Tang family hadn't made a move yet. Were they really going to let Ting go? Ting is still young. Maybe the springboard was too high and he got carried away, Boss Gio said. The bar owner said to Tangwa, I don't think he'll go far. What's Mr. Tang thinking? You're just letting him slap your face without teaching him a lesson? Actually, there was another reason why Boss Gio had rejected Ting. He had a good relationship with Tang Yunfeng. It should be said that Tang Yunfeng was the one who helped him many years ago. No matter what, it was impossible for him to help Ting, even if there was really a very profitable project. In the original plot, Boss Gio even helped Tangwa deal with Ting. Unfortunately, Ting's life was smooth sailing at that time, and he had already grown into a towering tree. Boss Geo had no choice but to end up in a miserable state. Let him be proud for a while. The higher he stands, the more painful it will be if he falls. After hearing what Tangwa said, the bar owner didn't ask any more questions. Obviously, he understood what she meant. The family Tang did not intend to let Ting off, but they had their own plans. Tangwa thought wickedly in her heart. It was better to let Ting show off his male lead halo and completely offend everyone. When he fell into a quagmire, no one would be able to help him. Just like the original owner, she was called evil by everyone and no one stood by her side. In the end, when she burned herself to death, many people said that it was good that she died. Now that she was dead, there would no longer be anyone who would try to destroy Ting and Bai Rui's immortal couple. If the family Tang fell, wouldn't everyone be able to share this cake? Then, she didn't think there was anything wrong with those people who had said that the original owner was evil and talked about Ting. She would throw some stones at him and smash him to death. The cocktail party was just an interlude. Ting didn't greet Tangwa, nor did he want to know how she was doing now. If he hadn't underestimated his opponent and learned more about her, he wouldn't have been so calm and confident now. Chapter 2271. Although Ting didn't pull Boss Geo over for the project, he still managed to find someone to work with his ability and his own aura. The starting point wasn't that high, but the project was progressing well. There was no movement from the family. Everyone was secretly anxious and kept guessing the family Tang's attitude. As for the people beside the male and female lead, it was impossible to be calm. Ting was such an outstanding person. It was impossible for no woman to not be attracted to him. Even if they didn't really like him, he would still attract many women because of his ability. Ting hadn't married Bai Ruyu yet. These women all thought that Ting didn't like Bai Ruyu and only gave her a position by his side because she had given birth to a son. They were different from Bai Ruyu. They only wanted to get some money. Ting didn't care about the appearance of these women. He didn't care at all. However, when Bai Ruyu saw it, she felt very uncomfortable. Especially when Ting would bring her to various gatherings every time. She was always ostracized. There were many times when she hated going to gatherings. However, if she didn't go, she was afraid that Ting would be unhappy. She was even more afraid that Ting would be seduced by other women. In the end, she had no choice but to go. Even though she felt very wronged every time, she still had to endure it. Later, those women thought that Bai Ruyu was easy to bully because she didn't complain to Ting. They mistakenly thought that Ting didn't care about her. Their methods to deal with Bai Ruyu became even more severe. They even almost made Bai Ruyu drunk and sent her to another man's room. Ting arrived in time and stopped them. What was unexpected was that he used thunderous methods to bankrupt the family of the man in the room. The families of the women who made Bai Ruyu drunk also didn't have a good ending. Ting was Ting after all. As the male lead, how could he not have some methods? In just a few months, more than 10 small families were bankrupted by him. Even if they didn't go bankrupt, they were suppressed badly. This matter shocked many people and made them pay more attention to Ting. At this moment, Tangwa also knew about this matter. She was sitting in her office in the company building, looking at a list of names on the computer. If Ting was here, he would definitely recognize the families on the list. They were the ones that he bankrupted. They can be considered to be in the right place. They were defeated by the male lead, so I'm giving them too much credit. Tangwa's lips curled into a smile as she said to the system, in the original plot, when the family Tang fell from grace, they didn't stop adding insult to injury. How naive. Are the male and female leads so easily bullied? System, isn't it easy? Who was the one who bullied the male and female leads to tears every time? Ever since he destroyed those dozen or so small families, Ting's self-confidence had increased a lot. Moreover, he could feel that the people who had once ignored him seemed to have a much better attitude towards him. Ting, who was standing taller and taller, was not polite to these people. Especially during negotiations, he was cold and heartless. Many people complained bitterly, but there were profits to be made, so they had no choice but to cooperate with the other party. They even blamed the family Tang in their hearts. Previously, he didn't take the opportunity to suppress Enchanting. Now that his opponent had grown, he probably wouldn't be able to suppress him in the future. Moreover, they all wanted to see if Enchanting would deal with the family Tang in the future. Who would win and who would lose when the two families fought? Tangua had already guessed these thoughts. Chapter 2272. It was said that businessmen were always successful, and no one would really sympathize with her. They just liked to see Enchanting, a proud son of heaven, lose and feel happy in their hearts. What was the point of standing at the side and watching the show? Only by participating could they feel the beauty of the game, right? Yes, she had planned to drag all these people down with her from the beginning. Previously, they had supported the family Tang dynasty only because they saw that Enchanting was weak and wanted to see the family Tang dynasty make a fool of herself and see the family Tang dynasty beat a drowning dog. Seeing Enchanting rise, they also wanted to see Enchanting and the family Tang dynasty go against each other. It would be best if the family Tang dynasty suffered 800 casualties to fight 1,000 people. Now that Enchanting's ability surpassed theirs, they would naturally choose to slowly cooperate with him. That was a very normal thing. If there came a day when Enchanting far surpassed the family Tang dynasty and could even crush the family Tang dynasty with a flick of his finger, they really wouldn't mind at all to help him pass the knife and then divide the meat in the end. She didn't like to be watched by others, and she didn't do anything. She just didn't exterminate Enchanting in time and let everyone watch him grow crazily without being able to do anything. They couldn't deal with Enchanting because they didn't have the ability. What did it have to do with her? As for whether she dealt with Enchanting or not, that was her business. It had nothing to do with them, so why were they anxious? Tang Yunfeng also felt the bloody storm of what had happened in the past 6 months. Xiaogua, if we continue playing like this, Enchanting will really reach the sky in one step? Dad, don't worry. It will be over soon. Tang Yunfeng heaved a sigh of relief and comforted her. But don't worry, Dad has also prepared a hand. When the time comes, Dad will let him understand what it means to be old ginger is spicier. Tangua pursed her lips and smiled. Okay, when the time comes, I want to see how Dad, this old ginger, spices him to death. Tang Yunfeng paused and suddenly asked, Xiaogua, do you have anyone you like? If there is someone you like, as long as you like him and his character is good, it doesn't matter what family background he comes from. Dad believes that Xiaogua is smart and knows what to do. You won't be bullied. Dad, what if I never have anyone I like? Qiuqiu, she won't like anyone in this lifetime. She will only like Meow. That's nothing. It's hard to say when it comes to liking something. If it comes, then it comes. If it doesn't, then it can't be forced. No matter what, his father only hoped that he could be happy in this life. If she had someone she liked, it was good that the other party would accompany her for the rest of her life. If not, her father's health was not bad and he could accompany her for a long time. Even if that's not enough, there's still Qiuqiu, this cute cat. It's different from humans. It only has one heart. It won't betray you. It will always be by your side. Qiuqiu was now an emperor-level adorable creature in the manor. Dad, I'm relieved to see you like this. Tangua stroked the white cat. I think it's not bad now. With Dad and Qiuqiu, my life is complete. Tang Yunfeng didn't care much about relationships. Back then, he had insisted on taking in a son-in-law and even picked someone to train personally because he was afraid that he wouldn't live long enough to take care of his daughter. Now, he still had some years to live. His daughter's health was getting better and better. Her wrist was better than his, and she had a cute and obedient kitten. He could tell that Enchanting's departure did not affect his daughter. On the contrary, she seemed to be very happy. By the way, what's the matter with that Cui Yen? Tang Yunfeng thought of Cui Yen and couldn't help but ask. Did Cui Yen look for Dad? Tang Yunfeng shook his head. He didn't take the initiative to look for him. They often meet by chance. The Chapter 2273. Often. As soon as Tangwa heard this, she knew what Cui Yen was thinking. After so many years, Cui Yen seemed to have changed his way of doing things in a certain dimension. He had been imitating that person's way of doing things. Was he planning to save the country in a roundabout way? Unfortunately, he didn't learn to be like that. It was too fake and disgusting. Yes, often. This person is very strange. Tang Yunfeng shook his head. I suspect that he might have taken a fancy to you and planned to start with me. However, I don't think so. Tang Yunfeng's expression was a little complicated. I suspect that this person might have some mental illness. He always does some strange things that don't suit him. Occasionally, he's shrewd, occasionally clumsy. Anyway, he's very strange. Therefore, he could only attribute it to this person having a mental illness. Dad, actually, I suspected that he was sick. So you saw it too. After Tangwa told him that Cui Yen was the private doctor that Qin Ting found for her, Tang Yunfeng became vigilant. Qin Ting found someone? Originally, he thought that if the other party didn't do anything bad, he would pretend that he didn't exist. Since it was someone that Qin Ting found, then he had to find someone to investigate and be more vigilant. Cui Yen didn't know that his roundabout way of saving the country had failed. Tang Yunfeng was thinking about things and didn't notice that the white cat on Tangwa's lap was looking at him with a very friendly gaze. Tangwa noticed it and slapped it on the head. She said goodbye to Tang Yunfeng and pushed the wheelchair back to the room. In the room, Tangwa put both hands on the white cat and rubbed it hard. It's really nice to touch. Its fur is getting brighter and brighter. I didn't waste so much money. The system was already used to the host torturing this cat in the room when she was free. In short, she would rub the cat's hair into a mess, as if it had been blown by a typhoon. However, this cat didn't resist at all. It even looked as if the host could rub it casually, which made the system a little disappointed. Cats should be proud and noble. This cat was extremely arrogant in front of others, but in front of his great host, it was like a liquid cat, allowing her to do whatever she wanted. It really had no integrity. As Qin Ting's company grew bigger and bigger, there were more and more people who feared and tried to curry favor with him. The family Tang did not take any action, causing many people to give up on the idea of watching both sides suffer. Right now, quite a few people were having a hard time protecting themselves because Qin Ting's methods were too unyielding. He did things without leaving any leeway at all, not giving people a way out. In a short 2 years' time, Qin Ting was already insufferably arrogant. The most obvious change was that whenever Bai Ruyu attended a wine party, she would no longer be ignored. There would always be people trying to curry favor with her. However, Bai Ruyu already knew what these people were thinking. Therefore, she was neither cold nor warm to them. These people looked friendly on the surface, but in their hearts, they were already scolding her. Many things had happened on Bai Ruyu's side. Qin Ting had struck it rich. Her son was his. She definitely couldn't hide it from her relatives. That group of outrageous relatives had caused her a lot of trouble. In the end, it was still him, Qin Ting, who made a move and taught those people a good lesson. The other party didn't dare to look for her again. Her parents often came and went to this city. Although her parents were a little weak, they were very happy to see their daughter getting better and better. However, they were soft-hearted and couldn't help but secretly help those relatives. They caused trouble for Bai Ruyu and used money to subsidize their relatives. Bai Ruyu didn't lack money now. She turned a blind eye to the two of them taking some money to subsidize their relatives. Today, after her parents finished communicating with a relative, they went to look for Bai Ruyu and asked her about her marriage with Qin Ting. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2274. Bai Ruyu also cared about marriage. Thus, when her parents mentioned it, she wanted to ask Qin Ting. Qin Ting had been very busy and neglected this matter. When Bai Ruyu mentioned this matter, he instantly made a decision. Then I'll ask someone to prepare and pick a good day. I'll give you a wedding of the century. Bai Ruyu was a little happy. At the same time, when she saw Enchanting staring at the computer without lifting his head, she was also a little disappointed. Enchanting treated her well, but she always felt that Enchanting didn't have any feelings for her. The more one got, the more greedy one would get. Bai Ruyu even suspected that Enchanting still had Tangwar in his heart. After all, they had been together for so many years. How could he not have any feelings for her? Ah Ting, do you still like Miss Tang? In the end, Bai Ruyu mustered up the courage to ask this question. If you haven't forgotten Miss Tang, we can still wait. She heard that when a man liked a woman, he couldn't wait to marry her. She had been with Enchanting for so many years, but he had never mentioned marriage. Now that she mentioned it, his attitude was neither hot nor cold. This meant that he didn't like her. Perhaps he still had Tangwar in his heart. He was only giving her a wedding of the century because of Yanji. Speaking of which, Enchanting should be more concerned about Yanji. If Yanji didn't exist, he probably wouldn't have bothered with her and wouldn't have come to find her. Thinking about this, Bai Ruyu's heart ached. In the end, she was really just an interloper. If she hadn't interfered, Enchanting and Miss Tang would have already gotten married. Enchanting regained his senses and saw that Bai Ruyu was lost in thought. He hugged her and said, "Don't think too much. I don't have any feelings for her." What he said was the truth even though they had been together for so many years. Although he didn't have deep feelings for Bai Ruyu, at least he liked her. At that wedding, he had lost all his face and everything. Tangwa must have been behind this. She already knew the truth. Why did she wait until the wedding? Didn't she want him to lose face in front of everyone so that he couldn't make a comeback? But he had forgotten that she was the one who liked him wholeheartedly and treated him well. If not for his betrayal and deliberate concealment, would things have come to that? What right did he have to blame her? He also had his own reasons for going to Family Tang. Bai Ruyue didn't continue to be unreasonable. No matter what, since Enchanting was willing to marry her, they still had a lifetime to develop feelings for each other. Enchanting and Bai Ruyu were about to get married. Many people seemed to have forgotten everything that had happened in the past. One after another, they praised them for being a perfect match. It was only because of Enchanting's current status that people feared him. In the past 2 years, many people had suffered at his hands. Should we give Miss Tang an invitation card? Bai Ruyu hesitated for a moment before asking Enchanting. Enchanting paused. No need. That woman was very proud. If he sent her an invitation, he didn't know what would happen. Now, he also knew that she was managing the Family Tang Company. Moreover, they had crossed swords a few times, but he had not gained the upper hand. It was clear that Tang Yunfeng's daughter had excellent genes and was not simple. That's right, if it was simple, why would he silently think of such a way to mess with him? Even now, that was his dark history. It wasn't good to talk about it. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting lead, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant peak. Chapter 2275. Enchanting's wedding for Bai Ruyu was indeed the wedding of the century. It was a grand occasion, and all of Bai Ruyu's relatives came. Actually, she didn't want those relatives to come, but she couldn't dissuade her parents. Thinking about it, those relatives were afraid of Enchanting, so they probably wouldn't come and cause trouble. She followed her parents' wishes and let them attend the wedding. At the same time, she also wanted to use this day to blow off steam. After all, these people wanted to marry her to an ugly and old man. Every time they spoke to her, they would be harsh. It wasn't a bad idea for them to attend her wedding and see her in all her glory. The wedding was held on a small island. Enchanting had spent a lot of money to book it, giving Bai Ruyu enough face. Bai Yanji was very satisfied. There were many people who came to attend the wedding. It should be said that most of the influential people came to attend. They didn't see the Family Tang people present, so they felt a little strange. Looking at the current Enchanting, they sighed in their hearts. This Family Tang really didn't have a successor. They had long thought that the Family Tang didn't make a move because Tangwa couldn't let go of Enchanting and was soft-hearted. Although she was quite capable, she couldn't achieve great things if she was soft-hearted. The wedding was in progress, and it was time for Bai Ruyu and Enchanting to walk the red carpet. No one expected that when they were about to walk to the end, a familiar scene would play out. Wait a moment. A pleasant female voice came from behind. This wasn't a church. The wedding was held in the open air. Everyone turned their heads and saw the beautiful woman in a blue dress sitting in a wheelchair being pushed in. She was hugging a white cat. She was wearing a blue dress and was sitting in a wheelchair. When the crowd saw that it was Tangwa, their hearts were filled with excitement. They couldn't help but recall many years ago. At that time, the bride was Tangwa and the groom was Enchanting. It was when the priest was about to witness the wedding that Bai Ruyu appeared. This scene made them feel excited, playful, and a little strange. What a familiar and exciting scene. The system suddenly understood. It was wondering what the host was waiting for. Such a vengeful woman wouldn't let Bai Ruyu off. Bai Ruyu had ruined her wedding that year, so she would definitely return the favor. This woman had always been narrow-minded. When Enchanting saw Tangwa appear, he was still quite calm. He met Tangwa's eyes, but he couldn't see anything from her clear eyes. However, when Tangwa came over today, everyone, including him, could only think of one possibility. She still liked him, or rather, she liked him very much. Thinking back to all these years, ever since he left that day, Tang Yunfeng didn't find trouble with him, and she didn't find trouble with him either. He was very sure that the family Tang did not deal with him in private. Back then, when he had not yet developed, he did not know if he could survive if the family Tang wanted to deal with him. But family Tang did not. There was only one possibility. Tangwa liked him and did not want to deal with him. Thinking of this, Enchanting felt very complicated. No matter how smart and scheming she was, she still made him lose face. However, she still couldn't bear to truly deal with him. The bit of guilt that had been suppressed a few years ago unknowingly rose up again. In the end, he was the one who had wronged her. If it wasn't for those things, why would she do that? She should be furious. Even if she really used all her means to deal with him, that would be a normal reaction. Peek, you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.